You've been told since you entered the workforce that the key to handling a difficult manager is empathy, open communication, and managing up. You think that if you just show them more respect, work 10% harder, or finally find the right words to explain your perspective, they will eventually see your value and treat you like a human being. We are conditioned to believe that every conflict has a rational middle ground and that toxic behavior is just a misunderstanding waiting to be resolved by a good HR department. But as you sit in your car on a Sunday evening, feeling that familiar knot of dread in your stomach because your boss sent a condescending, quick question email at 9 p.m., you need to realize that you aren't dealing with a difficult manager. You are dealing with a predator of the ego. The truth is, a narcissistic boss doesn't want your results. They want your supply. They don't want a high performer. They want a mirror that reflects their own perceived greatness back at them while absorbing the blame for every one of their failures. You aren't being sensitive for feeling like you're losing your mind. You are experiencing the clinical precision of narcissistic injury and gaslighting in a corporate setting. The tension you feel isn't a performance issue. It's the sound of your psychological boundaries being dismantled so that someone else can feel powerful. You think it works like this. You be the better person, and eventually the cream rises to the top. But it doesn't. Here's what actually happens. The more you try to fix the relationship using traditional logic, the more you signal to the narcissist that you are an infinite resource of emotional labor. Your belief in professional decency is the very leash they are using to drag you toward burnout. Think about the relatable daily friction of your current reality. You just finished a project that required 3 weeks of overtime, and during the team meeting, your boss takes the floor. They spend 10 minutes talking about their vision and their strategic execution, never mentioning your name once. In fact, when a senior executive asks a difficult question about a technical error that was actually the boss's mistake, they look directly at you and say, "I think we need to look into why the team let that detail slip, right?" You feel a surge of white-hot frustration. It feels unfair, illogical, and deeply insulting. You think to yourself, I have the receipts, I have the emails, I'll prove it was them. But when you try to defend yourself, they give you that look, that patronizing, calm look, and suggest you're being defensive or emotional. You leave the room feeling like the villain in a story you wrote. You are being conditioned. This is the part where most people get stuck. They stay in the argue and defend loop. They think that if they just provide enough evidence, the narcissist will have a light bulb moment and apologize. They won't. In the narcissist's world, facts are optional and feelings are facts. You are fighting a war of logic in a theater of pure perception. And as long as you keep playing by the rules of fairness, you will continue to lose. The hidden truth behind outsmarting a narcissistic boss, using the mechanics of dark psychology, is that you must stop viewing them as a leader and start viewing them as an algorithm. A narcissist is a machine that runs on 2 inputs, grandeur and control. This is the part nobody tells you. Your boss doesn't actually hate you. They are indifferent to you. To them, you are a function. When you perform well, you are a tool that makes them look good. When you challenge them, you are a glitch that must be suppressed. Here's what actually happens. When you try to be too good at your job, you inadvertently trigger their insecurity. If the higher-ups notice you instead of them, you have become a threat. They will then begin a campaign of micro-slightings, forgetting to include you on emails, to criticizing your tone, or moving the goalposts at the last second. They are breaking your false assumption that expertise is your shield. In reality, in the presence of a narcissist, your expertise is the target. They don't want you to be competent. They want you to be reliably competent, but socially silent. Deep office politics is the art of navigating the ecosystem. Decisions in these environments are never made based on the best idea. They are made based on whose ego is fed. The narcissistic boss operates on a principle of calculated chaos. They keep the team in a state of mild anxiety because anxious people are easier to control. They use intermittent reinforcement, giving you a glowing compliment one day and total coldness the next, to keep you addicted to their approval. And human behavior dictates that we work harder for a reward that is unpredictable than for one that is guaranteed. You are being slot machined. The boss is the house, and the house always wins. In the hierarchy of power, loyalty is measured by how much blandness you can project while they take the credit. If you are the star, you are the enemy. If you are the enabler, you are safe but soul-crushed. Decisions are made in the silence of their private insecurities. They don't choose the best person for the promotion. They choose the person who makes them feel the most superior. And this is where the reality shift must happen. You need to realize that your current approach of trying to be understood is your greatest liability. You are handing them the code to your emotional state. Every time you show frustration, hurt, or a desire for fairness, you are giving them data on how to control you. You have to reframe your understanding of the workplace. It is not a family, and it is not a community. For now, it is a dark room where you must move without making a sound. Your approach is failing because you are seeking validation from the very person whose survival depends on invalidating you. You think it works like this, but it doesn't. This is the turning point where you stop being a participant in their drama and start being an observer of their pathology. You move from the emotional to the clinical. Subtle solutions to disarming a narcissist involve the gray rock method, but with a corporate twist I call the professional mirror. Since a narcissist feeds on high-octane reactions, you must become low-leaded gasoline. You become boring. When they bait you with a criticism, you don't defend. You reflect. You say, "I hear your concern about the timeline. What would be the ideal date for you?" You are shifting the labor of decision back to them while removing the emotional payoff. Visibility is your next weapon. A narcissist thrives in the gray areas where there is no documentation. You must weaponize the paper trail under the guise of extreme alignment. Every verbal instruction they give you is followed by a recap email. Just to ensure I'm perfectly aligned with your vision, I've summarized our chat here. You aren't being annoying. You are creating a legal shield that makes it impossible for them to rewrite history later. They will hate this, but they cannot publicly criticize you for being too organized. Perception is managed by building lateral gravity. The narcissist will try to isolate you by telling you that the rest of the team has issues with your work. This is almost always a lie. You counter this by building boring alliances with every other department. You become the person who is easy to work with for everyone except your boss. When the narcissist tries to smear you to the higher-ups, they will find that their narrative doesn't match the experience that everyone else has with you. You are creating a divergent reality. You don't need to fight the boss, and you just need to make the boss's opinion of you look like an outlier. Communication should be hypnotically deferential, but factually rigid. You use their narcissistic grandeur against them. You frame every suggestion as if it were their idea. I was thinking about that brilliant point you made last week about efficiency, and it led me to this solution. You are taming the beast by feeding it the only thing it loves more than control: adulation. Relationships in this environment are assets of intelligence. You need to find the former favorites, the people who used to be the boss's golden child before they were discarded. They know the cycle. They know the triggers. You don't go to them to complain. You go to them to verify the algorithm. Once you understand the pattern of the boss's outbursts, they no longer have power over you. You can predict the Monday morning rant or the Friday evening fire drill. When you can predict the chaos, it is no longer chaos, it's just weather. You stop taking the storm personally and just start carrying an umbrella. Strategy is about long-term extraction. You realize that you cannot change a narcissist, but you can use them. You use the prestige of the company and the projects they give you to build your lifeboat. You are not working for them. You are consulting for your own future. The part nobody tells you is that a narcissist is terrified of indifference. They can handle your hate because hate is a strong emotion that validates their importance. They cannot handle your professionalism. When you stop caring about their opinion and start focusing strictly on the mechanics of the role, you become invisible to their predatory instincts. They will eventually look for a new supply, someone who is still reactive and emotional. You are self-deplatforming from their ego. This is where most people get stuck. They feel guilty for not being a team player. But here's what actually happens. You are the only real team player left, because you were the only one not participating in the toxic theater that is destroying the team's productivity. Reality shift. Your empathy is a high-value currency. Stop spending it on a black hole. You are trying to fill a bucket with no bottom. Instead, invest that empathy in yourself and your external network. Reframing your understanding means accepting that winning doesn't mean getting an apology. Winning means exiting the situation with your mental health intact and a better job offer in your inbox. The narcissist's greatest fear was that you will realize you don't need them. Use dark psychology, not to hurt them, but to decouple your identity from their approval. You are practicing strategic disengagement. You are ghosting them while sitting in the same room. Ending. The truth about outsmarting a narcissist is that the game only exists if two people are playing. When you stop defending, the game ends. When you stop explaining, the game ends. When you treat their outbursts like a system error instead of a personal insult, you have already won. You think you're losing your career, but you're actually just shedding a parasite. The corporate world is full of these ego predators, and learning to navigate them now is the black belt of office politics. You aren't being cold, you are being competent in a way they can't touch. Reflect on the quiet power of the person who smiles, nods, documents everything, and leaves the building every day at 5 p.m. with a completely clear conscience. Reinforce this truth. Your value is not a variable that your boss gets to define. It is a constant. The narcissist is trying to convince you that you are small so they can feel large. But size in the corporate world is measured by impact and portability, not by who shouted the loudest in a one-on-one. Create an awareness of your own sovereignty. You are an entity of your own making. End with this. The moment you stop looking for a father figure or a mentor in a narcissist is the moment you become their master. Because the only thing a narcissist cannot control is a person who truly doesn't care what they think. Reflective statement. In the theater of the ego, the only way to win is to leave the stage and become the person who owns the building.